I'm excited for this season of Rocket Motivation because my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale, Attorneys at Law, where I am a partner, is our sponsor. We understand life and running a business can be challenging, but with the right support, it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we're thrilled to announce our partnership with Hand, Arundel, Harris & Sale.
You know, one of the things that I've learned is that tough times don't always last, but also embrace the situations that are hard. Because I've been through so many hard things, I don't think I've been through all of the hard things that one person can go through, but because I've been through so many hard things, it makes facing adversity easier each time.
Hey everyone, this is Rod Cade and welcome to Rocket Motivation Podcast. This week's guest was born in Haiti. When he was 10 years old, his mother and two sisters began a trek to the United States, which started off on a boat that was barely seaworthy. The family eventually made it to the U.S., specifically to Mobile, Alabama. This week's guest will tell his story of navigating life and how he eventually rose to the position of president of Bishop State Community College here in Mobile. Olivier Charles, welcome to Rocket Motivation Podcast.
Thank you, Rod, for having me.
All right, it's my pleasure. So, Olivier, do this. Kind of tell us where you are now in your life. You know, your job, your family. Just kind of catch us up.
Sure. So I will say, first and foremost, I'm a husband. I'm married to the wonderful Angela Charles, Dr. Angela Charles, and we are blessed with a 5-year-old daughter. Her name is Claire. But, you know, when I have spare time, I get to serve as the president of Bishop State Community College. It is the most humbling role that I've ever had in my life. So it's definitely an honor of a lifetime to be in that role.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's go back. All right. So you're a kid. You're born in Haiti. And I know when you're 10 years old is when you leave. But tell us what life was like in Haiti to the extent you can remember,
Sure.
You know, about it.
So, you know, for those of you that are listening, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. In Haiti, there are no public schools. There are no rights. There's no public health care system. So it's an interesting place to grow up. You certainly learn a lot of things. So as a country, Haiti has always had some political unrest, and that led to my family, you know, fleeing. Essentially, we were political refugees fleeing the country to get to the U.S. So I don't know how much of the story you want.
Well, I'll tell you that. Well, let's do this. All right, the decision is made to leave, to flee. Tell us about the journey from getting on a boat that can barely stay afloat in Haiti and how you eventually got to the United States.
Sure. So I have the strongest woman in the world serves as my mother. And growing up, my mom had two jobs. She was a nanny, she was an au pair, but she was also a chef. So when I was about 9 or 10 years old, my mom sold everything that she owned in order to buy 4 boat tickets for our family to come to the U.S. So back then, you know, when you're political refugees, the goal is to buy a boat that is not seaworthy purposely, because if it's a good boat, then they're just going to turn you around and tell you to go back. But if it's a bad boat, then people tend to feel sorry for you. So she sold everything that she owned. The 4 of us got aboard a vessel and just floated towards the U.S. And you know, the goal is to get to the U.S., but the Coast Guard is just going to stop you because you just can't cross into U.S. soil. So the Coast Guard picked us up and they put us on their vessel, and we got to live in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So we thought we were trekking from Haiti to the United States, but instead we headed towards the United States and got picked up, and we ended up living in Gitmo for about a year.
Yeah, and what was that like?
Exactly as bad as you probably think it was. You know, we lived in tents, and you know, tent and a cot is basically what a family got. And we got to live with U.S. Army soldiers and translators that were there. And I tell people I've been working since I was 10 years old because one of the first things that I noticed that I had as a gift is I was able to learn things quickly. So I learned how to speak fluent English probably in about 2 months. So my first job, I was a translator for the U.S. military. So I got to ride around with them to the different camps and the different areas and translate for other Haitian families. So I got to ride around with soldiers all day. It was fantastic. And at the end of the day, each shift, they took me to McDonald's because there was a McDonald's on base. And we don't have McDonald's in Haiti. We didn't at the time. They took me to McDonald's after each shift, and they would buy me 2 cheeseburgers and French fries, which I then took home and split with my family. So that was our introduction into the U.S.
Right. I got you. All right. Well, so eventually you get to the U.S. All right, and I think you get to Mobile, Alabama, which is where we are and where we're recording this podcast. So, what was it like? So you get here, you're in a new country, everything's new. I mean, kind of tell us what that was like, and then the process of assimilation into the country.
Sure. So first and foremost, we did not choose Mobile, Alabama. I want all of the listeners to understand that most Haitian families in the U.S. end up in a few places. So South Florida, central of South Florida, probably the biggest Haitian population in the U.S., or even New York or Boston or Philadelphia or Chicago, even New Orleans on the list. I think there was a guy in the room with his eyes closed just throwing darts on a wall at a U.S. map. And somehow, some way, he ended up hitting Mobile, Alabama. And that is how we ended up here. So we were picked up when we got here by Catholic Social Services. My family is Catholic. So Catholic Social Services was a huge help to us. They picked us up from the airport, took us to our new home, our new place to live. They helped our family get an apartment. They paid our first month's rent. And I think they gave my mom $500, helped her get a job. And they said, go be Americans. That was it. Go figure it out on your own. And that is what they did. So was what we did. So my mom got her first job as an American at Flowerwood Nursery over in Loxley. She still works there to this day, very dedicated and loyal employee to them. So she's been there, and we just had to figure it out. So my sisters and I went to school. We had to learn English. As you can imagine, even though our English was good, it was still broken. So we still had to figure some things out. Mobile County Public Schools was very gracious to us. I think they had to figure out what to do with these little Haitian kids who had decent English but didn't have great English, so they had to figure that out. So we ended up being ESL students. English is a second language. It was an interesting childhood, to say the least, because we were Americanized almost instantly. And culturally, we had to get used to a whole new place, a whole new way of doing things.
And how was that? I mean, because now you're in the U.S. and it's all different. I mean, how did you kind of assimilate, and how did you, as a kid and then adolescent and into high school? I mean, how did you do it?
I will say, as kids, it's much easier to assimilate yourself. So, of course, we struggled. We were certainly poor. Here's the funny thing. We didn't know we were poor because just being in the U.S. was just a huge leap for us. So being poor here is still 100 times better than being poor where we came from. So we knew we were poor, but we didn't know we were really poor. So we just kind of did it, and I know that's not the right answer, but as kids, you just kind of figure things out. You go with the flow. Sometimes it led to making bad decisions. It led to me hanging out with people I shouldn't be hanging out with. But at the same time, it was so good for us to figure things out on our own. And surprisingly, kids just adapt faster than adults do. So we just kind of survived. I always had a job. I always found a way to help my mom offset the bills, and my sister did the same thing. So we just kind of found a way to work ourselves into the culture.
Now, I know at some point you get a job as an intern with Judge Vicki Davis. Now, tell us how that came about,
Sure.
That story, and weave into it about you getting your bike stolen.
Oh, yeah. So I think I was 13. We took a field trip. I attended Callaway Smith Middle School. I attended Phillips first, but I got kicked out. But I'll save that for another podcast episode. I ended up at Callaway Smith, and one summer I got into some trouble. I was hanging out with some kids I didn't need to, and got into some trouble. And I had it through my mind that I wanted to be an attorney, because I wanted to shake the legal system up, and I was going to be, Black Matlock out there, just doing my thing. And we went on a field trip to Judge Davis's courthouse, and Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I took my shot that day, and I walked up to her and asked her, can I be your intern? Can I work for you this summer to learn what it's like to be an attorney and then eventually be a judge? And I think to my surprise and even her surprise, she said yes. So I reported to work that next week, showed up and rode my bike to work the first day. I didn't know any better, so I just parked my bike out in front of Government Plaza thinking, I'll just leave it for a few hours. When I come back, it'll be there. And so I went to work and kind of had my little orientation. I came back at the end of the day. My bike was gone. But beyond that, it was such a great summer for me because as a 13-year-old, who thought he had the world completely under control, I got to sit down every single day and work with Judge Davis. She allowed me to be her bailiff. So every day I got to come in and say, all rise. And I felt like I was the man for a little while in the courtroom. And, she was so good to me. She fed me every day, gave me life advice. And it was such a positive experience for me because the neighborhood that I lived in at the time, we just didn't have a lot of professional people. So I didn't get to see that. I didn't know what it was like to be a professional. I knew what it was like to have, please don't take this the wrong way, but blue collar jobs. But I didn't know what professional people did every day. So it was so good for me to see that and to learn from her. So, I'm so grateful to her even till this day. I went off to school and now I'm back home, but I'm so grateful to her because if she didn't say yes, right, that day, I don't know if I would be where I'm standing. I certainly give her credit for taking the chance on me and showing me what things are like.
And you're still very close with Judge Davis.
I am. In fact, she 20 years later, I never told anyone the bike story. And then I finally tell it at her investiture a few months ago. The mistake I made was telling that story publicly. And maybe last month, Judge Davis showed up to my office with a new bike as a Christmas gift. So she wanted to give me the bike that got stolen 20 years ago. And she said, why didn't you tell me? Well, the goal then, and I was always raised, you show up, you find a way to get to work. And for me, the bike getting stolen was just a little mishap, but I found a way to get to work every single day.
Right. You graduate high school, you go off to the University of West Alabama. All right, tell us about your college career and kind of take us through that and, kind of then your first jobs and eventually how you got to Bishop State.
Sure. So first I went to Murphy, which I think is the best high school in the state. Some people may not agree, but I think so. When I left Murphy, I had no intention on going to college, to be honest with you. I was one of those kids that when I finished school, I remember a lot of people telling me I wasn't college material or I wasn't good enough to go to college. I wasn't going to make it and all of these things. I think we had maybe 500 people graduate from Murphy. I was just an average student, smack dab in the middle, more towards the end of the class. I was able to get into UWA, and I went there thinking that I was a good enough basketball player that I would get on the team. Well, I got immediately humbled. I was not good enough, and I certainly didn't have the discipline to get up at 4 a.m. for workouts. I wanted to sleep in and party. So I had to figure things out. I had to make a change, and that place was so good to me. I don't know if anybody listening has ever been to Livingston, Alabama, but there is nothing to do in Livingston, Alabama. It is a one stoplight, one gas station, just one everything town. And it was so good for me because I got to learn a lot of discipline habits, a lot of study habits. There was nothing else to do, so I studied. But the best thing that could have happened to me throughout those 4 years is that I met my wife. We met freshman year of college in our biology class. And, she's crazy because she stuck with me ever since, and we've been together for a long time. But fast forward, I graduate from there. I get my first job at UWA as an admissions counselor. And it was my job to go around the state and recruit students to come to UWA. I got really good at it. I really enjoyed the salesman aspect of it, but it was my way of giving back to a place that gave so much to me. I got so good that I became the director of admissions within 2 years at age 24. They made a mistake probably giving me that job. But I went out and I recruited people that I knew had the same personality, the same spunk for growing the institution. And, you should never do this in business, but I hired my friends because I knew how good they could be. And sure enough, we were successful. We grew that place. And 3 years later, I left because I was recruited by Auburn University at Montgomery, had the same mission. I was the director of admissions and recruitment and handled some marketing things for them. And we were able to grow AUM as well. Then I got a call from Enterprise State Community College, Regional Community College in Enterprise, Alabama, in the Wiregrass region. The president at the time called me and said, will you come in and help us, organize our whole student services operation? And I think you could do some fun things here. And we were successful there. Took my team there, and we were able to grow that place and just help that community grow. And then got a call from Montgomery. And I promise I can keep a job. I can keep a job. That's just kind of been the notion of my career. Got a call from Montgomery, our system office that controls all of the community colleges in the state, called and said, will you come and help our state grow and do all things well related to student services, just the entire gamut, recruitment, admissions, financial aid, athletics, the whole nine. So I took that job, I think in 2017. And then a little thing called COVID-19 hit in 2020 that kind of reshaped and changed a lot of things within higher education. But Alabama was so fortunate. We had a great team and great people around the state. we were one of the only states that actually grew their enrollment through COVID, our community college system. So we did that. And, I think the one of the best moments of my career that happened was I remember seeing the posting for Bishop State, and I wasn't interested at first. I'm very honest about that. I didn't want to come to Bishop State. I was happy doing what I was doing. There was, some turmoil and things going on. But my wife tells me that I'm the craziest person in the world because I'm attracted to bad situations. I really am. I wanted to help. I wanted to help the community college that was in the neighborhood that I grew up. And I certainly don't think I'm the savior of Bishop State, but we have put in a good team that is doing the right things and making sure that Bishop State is one of the best colleges in the state.
So, Olivier, how old are you?
I'm 36.
Okay. You've got to be are you the youngest president that Bishop State's ever had?
I don't know. I've never looked into that. I was 35 when I got the role. That's not important. I think it's important to put a good team in place that does the work. I could be, but to be honest, that's kind of been the story everywhere that I've been. I've always been the youngest guy in the room or the only minority in the room, but it's always just been about focusing on the work.
Right. Well, your life, starting in Haiti, coming to the U.S., doing what you've done, what have you learned about yourself?
Oh, boy. A lot. I would say, one of the things that I've learned is that tough times don't always last, but also embrace the situations that are hard. Because I've been through so many hard things. I don't think I've been through all of the hard things that one person can go through, but because I've been through so many hard things, it makes facing adversity easier each time.
I gotcha. And based on your life too, you go through life, you have these experiences. You're like, all right, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this. Do you ever, stop and think, all right, what is it that we want out of life? Or what should we want out of life?
Oh, yeah. I think every person in leadership, goes through that, whether it's from a corporate aspect or a master planning aspect. That certainly is something I think a lot of humans ponder. And I don't have the answer for everybody. I know for me, the one thing that gets me up every single day is that I get to make a difference in other people's lives. And that's so powerful for me because I get to watch, a 40-year-old single mom graduate, but I also get to watch an 18, 19-year-old graduate and get their life started. And that just means everything to me. I've watched somebody making $5, well, maybe $7 an hour at minimum wage, and now they graduate from one of our truck driving programs and they're making $25 an hour. That's tax bracket changing and life changing and life altering for that person. So I feel so good watching somebody else succeed.
And you've been, a lot of what you've done, or I guess most of your career has been, working with younger people, or at least the teenage, the college age. What's the best advice you could give to a young person, somebody maybe in high school, getting ready to graduate? What do you tell them?
When I was in high school, one of my classmates said something to me, and for some reason it always stuck with me. He was graduating. He was going off to Alabama A&M, and he was going to major in engineering. And I remember asking him, why do you want to major in engineering? Isn't it hard? And he looked at me, and this guy hardly said anything serious, but he said the most simple and best advice. He said, well, everybody's got to do something hard at some point in their life. And it was simple advice, but it stuck with me all through college and still now. He said, we all have to do something hard, but we can't run away from the difficult things because the difficult things are what make us who we are. And he's now an engineer and he's very successful. But I remember that because in my mind, I thought engineering was hard. In his mind, he thought, I just need to get through engineering school so that I can do what I need to do. So I would say that to any student, that it's okay to do things that are hard. That's what makes us special, is when we do the hard things.
Yeah, gotcha. And let me broaden the question out because, Rocket Motivation Podcast, it's all about trying to help people. It's,
Absolutely.
Dealing with overcoming adversity. Based on what you've been through, what's the advice you give to somebody who's having a tough time, down on their luck, trying to get through it? What do you tell them?
Whatever anyone is going through, I think one of the things we have to realize is that pain doesn't last forever. It hurts. It sucks. I know it does. But pain is typically temporary. And if we can train our minds to understand that, I don't think life becomes easy, but it certainly becomes easier in terms of how we manage things and how we do things. So whatever people are going through, whatever the circumstance is, it doesn't have to last forever. It can end tonight. It can end tomorrow. It can end next week. but next week isn't forever. So I think it's almost like a mind shift of success to know that this may be a tough season, but it doesn't have to be the end.
Right. President Charles, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been a great episode. And this is the first, I think this is about our 8th episode of this season. This is the first time I've had somebody live in studio. It's all, we've been doing it by Zoom because everybody's been, it's just so much more fun.
Absolutely.
When we're right across the table from each other. But you're not getting away that easy. So I always give the guests the parting shot. So, give us some great advice, something that you hadn't told us yet, just something to take us home.
Sure. So, what I would tell everybody is our community is in such a great place right now. We're heading in the right direction. We've got the right leadership in place. I don't necessarily have any words of wisdom that I think are wisdom, but I want to encourage everybody to do that thing that they've always wanted to do. Whether it's go back to school, whether it's to read that book, whether it's to engage and to pursue whatever it is that they'd like to, I'd like to encourage everybody to give it a shot. I mean, we all only live once on this side, right? So I think taking that notion and taking that first step is always the hardest step. But once we do it, it's just so much more fulfilling. There's a saying that the longest hikes lead to the best destinations. And I think that's so true. So I want to encourage everybody, whatever it is. I'm selfish. I want everybody to come to Bishop State because I know that if you come through one of our programs, you can be gainfully employed and do better. But at the same time, I just want to encourage everybody to be their best self. And that's almost like training your mind every single day to get up and punch back because life is just going to keep punching us in the face. But we got to find a way to take that punch, but we got to find a way to punch back as well. So that's my encouragement to everybody.
All right. What a great episode with Olivier Charles. The journey from Haiti as a child to the U.S. and eventually president of Bishop State Community College has provided great life lessons that he shared with us. See you next week for another inspiring episode of Rocket Motivation Podcast. Thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsor, my law firm, Hand Arundel Harris & Self, with offices in Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope, and Athens, Alabama, and Destin, Panama City Beach, and Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We are uniquely situated among the Southeast major law firms to provide legal direction to clients throughout Alabama and Northwest Florida. So whether you're looking for legal advice, litigators, or simply a partner you can trust, Hand Arundel Harris & Sale is there for you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Hand Arundel Harris & Sale for all your legal needs. Visit our website at handfirm.com. And if you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cade, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.